Hello and welcome to the MOOC. So we're here today to talk to Sophie Goodacre, who's a finance manager from Sound Seekers. Sophie's going to talk to us today about her very personal experience of deafness and her decision to go ahead with cochlear implantation. So hello Sophie.
Hello, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Could you tell us a little bit about your role at Sound Seekers and what you've been involved in?
Okay, I'm a finance manager, so I'm involved with all the finance stuff, such as invoices, monthly reconciliation. I'm also involved with other activities in my role because we're such a small team at Sound Seekers, so I'm kind of involved with the fundraising and project management, so quite a various role, but it's always fun because there's always something different every day.
So quite a wide and varied role. So it's interesting that you've chosen to work for Sound Seekers. In terms of thinking about your own deafness, could you explain to me some of your personal experience and your background?
I was born deaf. That's probably the reason that my parents found out I was deaf when I was 1 year old. So it could be that I was born deaf because I'm the only one deaf in my family. None of my family got hearing loss. I'm the only one. So I had hearing aids when I was younger, but they didn't really work very well for me because I'm profoundly deaf. So I really struggled with hearing aids. So my parents went to sign language classes to learn sign language so they can communicate with me. But they still struggle because I can really hear much with the hearing aids. So they decided to go for a cochlear implant when I was 6 years old. But back then it was quite a big decision because back then it was quite new. There was quite a lot of size risks. But they decided to go ahead with it. They visited quite a lot of families throughout the UK to get other people's opinion and their experiences, and they decided to go ahead. So I had it at the Great Ormond Street in London when I was 6. And I think it all went well, but afterwards, when they had the switch on, the parents thought they made a mistake because they didn't realise it takes quite a while to adjust to the noises. And I had quite a lot of speech therapy after that because of getting used to this cochlear. And then, I don't know what I would do today without my cochlear. So it's definitely a life changing to have a cochlear implant.
Yeah, okay. So in terms of at the time, do you remember the experience of going ahead with the cochlear implant?
I was quite young, but I remember my parents said that I was very excited because they wanted to take me to a museum before I had my operation, but I said no, I want to stay at the hospital because I was worried I was going to miss my operation. So I was very excited to because my parents explained that I'll be able to hear more, and I was really excited to be able to hear more because I've got a younger sister as well, so I want to be able to communicate with her as well.
Yeah, okay, so quite an exciting but a challenging time going ahead with this decision and the changes. And so now in terms of your day-to-day social life, going about your day-to-day work and so on, what's the impact of having the cochlear implant for you now? How do you manage this on a day-to-day basis?
Well, I still struggle to hear. It's amazing having a cochlear, but I still struggle in a noisy environment. So if I go to a pub or a restaurant in a group, I really struggle because it's a lot of noise in the background. So I much prefer one-to-one. And I can't use the phone. I struggle to hear the phone as I feel very confident. But I've been very lucky, I managed to hear really well with my cochlear, and I just rely heavily on lip reading, and I told people to be aware about it. And I had very good education, I had very good support from my family, and I had good support at school and at university, note taker, teachers the deaf. So I was very lucky, I had really good support throughout my life. So that's why I wanted to work for Sound Seekers, because that's very close to my heart, because I was very lucky to have a good audiology support and education support. So I want to be able to make a difference and give the same support in Africa, because there's no audiology support in Africa. It's very limited. There's not much awareness about it. So that's why I got involved with Sound Seekers.
So thinking about your choice to have a cochlear implant, clearly we know there are lots of positive benefits of having an implant. Have you had any difficulties with your implant along the way?
When I went travelling for 7 months, I was doing volunteering in Fiji for 6 weeks. So I was in a very remote area, and my cochlear stopped working because it got very wet and it's got a mixture of like sand and humid, that it stopped working, and that was the hardest 2 days of my life because I couldn't communicate with anyone, I could hear nothing. So I put my cochlear in like a bowl of rice to see if that helped absorb the humid, but it still wasn't working properly. So that's the disadvantage. And also have to make sure you carry batteries with you all the time. I'm always forgetting to put spare batteries in my bag. So you've got to make sure you've got to have batteries with you all the time, otherwise your cochlear will stop working and then I can't hear anything.
Yeah, so you've got to be quite well planned to make sure that you've got your batteries there. I imagine that must have been incredibly difficult, obviously when you're quite reliant on the implant, all of a sudden to be in a different country, somewhere totally different, and find that this unfortunately lets you down due to the weather, you know, the tropical conditions.
And it made other people realise like how deaf I was, because like I speak so well and I can hear with my cochlear. They were quite shocked to see that without my cochlear I'm completely different, because I'm a bit more reserved. I don't feel very confident to speak because I can't hear my own voice, and like it was it's difficult to communicate. Like I was getting really tired because I had to lip read even harder, so it was quite challenging.
Yeah, so it's quite surprising then, isn't it, for the other people that have maybe got to know you, talking to you and getting to know you with the implant, all of a sudden if that lets you down, you know, how difficult that communication can be. So thinking about that, thinking about people living in other countries who might choose to go ahead with cochlear implantation, clearly there's impact there, isn't there, in terms of thinking about the conditions they might be living in.
Yeah, because like it's very humid. Like in Africa that I work for Sound Seeker, we focus in 6 countries in Africa, and like it's quite difficult for them to wear hearing aids and for a long time, because they either get very humid and they get sound inside. They might not have access to batteries because they live very far away. So it might take them like over 200 miles to go to their nearest hospital to be able to get their hearing aids repaired and get more batteries. So we're very lucky here, we've got easy access to like NHS support, whereas it's different in Africa. They have to travel quite far if they need to get hearing aids.
So you feel that for yourself as a deaf person having a cochlear implant, does this impact on your role in terms of what you're able to demonstrate when you're working for Sound Seekers?
Yeah, because like I had very good education, so I would be able to go on to university and get a degree, and I feel very confident, meet people. Like I've done quite a lot of travelling, so that kind of boosts my confidence as well and gain a bit more experience. So that's why I ended up Sound Seekers. I was an intern first for 3 months doing like a various role, but the CEO noted that I was very good with numbers and maths, so I kind of just ended up getting towards the finance route.
And what's the reaction of, you mentioned that you've been travelling, you've been to university, what's the reaction of other people when they realise you have a cochlear implant, or how do you deal with other people's reactions to that?
They're always really fascinated about it and like ask me questions about it, and I teach them sign language, so I know sign language, so I kind of share sign language with them, and they always like to know about it. And like sometimes if I do struggle to understand, like people abroad, different accent, I struggle with that, or people with a beard, because I can't see their lips, then I write it out on a piece of paper, and then we can communicate through that, or on the phone. But we're very lucky today with the modern technologies that we've got emails, like FaceTime, Skyping, where it's been different 10 years ago, it would be difficult to communicate.
Yes, it's a very different world, isn't it, due to technology now?
And it's changing so fast.
Yes. In terms of, what do you see for the future in terms of perhaps your role at Sound Seekers, or what do you see for the future as yourself as a young deaf person progressing with your career with your cochlear implant?
I just want to be able to achieve high and make the most of it. I'm quite interested to get into like international development and like finance. I still want to have a career that makes a difference.
Wonderful. Thank you for speaking to us today, Sophie. And we hope that that's been really interesting to understand Sophie's very personal experience of having a cochlear implant.